wanted to go ahead and comment a little bit on Mark Hunt and his comments that he made in giving the UFC an ultimatum, saying that he wants half of Lesnar's purse or he wants out of his contract. And the reason why I'm commenting on this is because I wanted to lay out a few things here that from this article and just how I feel about it. Now, I did do 2 videos before UFC 200 about this because I personally didn't feel like the way that Mark Hunt went about things was actually very smart at all. I felt like it kind of made him look like an asshole. And don't get me wrong, I like watching Mark Hunt fight, and I have no issue with the guy. But in this situation, it just made me feel like he was completely wrong. When you come out and you sign a fight, and then as soon as you sign that fight, you start making comments that give us all a reason to believe that you should have never signed the fight if you felt the way you did. When Brock Lesnar signed the fight with Mark Hunt to fight, that was like a month before the card. So clearly you know that Brock Lesnar's not getting the 4 months of drug testing and required by the USADA. That's why the exemption was given. Then you come out and you say that Brock Lesnar's juiced to the gills, and you believe that he has been for years. So you believe that a guy's doing steroids, yet you agree to fight him even though you blast the UFC and the USADA for not doing enough to clean up the sport. Well, at some point you could have taken that onto yourself and you could have just said, no, I'm not taking the fight. But we all know that it was too much money for him to turn away. He made $700,000 in a losing effort. Now in this article he said, you better do something. I already talked to the bosses. They better do something or I want out of here. I want a release from my contract. You guys are just making a mockery of us. You're making a fool out of me and you're making me look like an idiot. Now, the reason why I have an issue with this is again, they're not making Mark Hunt look like an idiot. Mark Hunt called it. He fucking said Brock Lesnar was doing steroids, or he was juicing to the gills and all this bullshit, which ultimately we do not know if Brock Lesnar's test was because of steroids or not. It could have been for any of the banned substances. Regardless, he still failed a drug test. And I just sit here and I think, it's kind of ridiculous with some of the stuff he says. Because he could have controlled this. He could have said, no, I don't want to fight Lesnar, I'll fight someone else. He could have just moved on. But no. Instead, he wanted the fucking payday. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not sitting here saying that Mark Hunt shouldn't be mad. He should be pissed off. He should want Brock Lesnar to get punished for it. He should want all of this stuff. But it's just annoying to me when you sat there and had all of the cards in your fucking hand and you want to blame everyone else. You want to blame everyone else involved instead of blaming yourself. It's just my opinion on it. Do I feel bad for the guy? Not really. You made $700,000 for 15 minutes of work. Whoop-de-fucking-do. $700,000. Yeah, he could have got hurt like he said. He didn't. And it is what it is. Ultimately, I don't think he'll get any of the money Brock Lesnar was given. I don't think he'll get released from his contract either. I think they're going to tell him to suck it up and move on. But that's just my opinion. Anywho, I'll holla at you later. Peace!